Now for the brake line to come over here and was always hitting the casing, and I didn't like it. I couldn't fit it in there. I took it out and I made a new one. I have a double flare tool for a brake line. This is my brake line, and you buy it, it's just raw steel. So what I did was I painted this with that liquid tape that comes in a bottle like, and you can, you know, brush it on. I got 2 heavy coats on there, and I only went that far because this goes down in that way and it comes back this way, and then it'll come up around. I'll have to wait till I have the chain and everything, the casing on here and everything, then I can route that. This piece will be back in there. It'll come over up along the frame here and back into here. But I wanted to redo that, so that's where I'm at on that brake line. I'm putting a new one in, I'm routing it and attach it to the frame right here and maybe up here, and then have it come up and go in there. That way I know it's right, and then this end I'll make a little extra long, and I can always pull it back and then push it in. But I want it where I can get at it to double flare it. But you have to really take it out, and I put the flaring tool in a vise to really crank it down because it's hard to just hold. But this I used a bender for it, and where it first comes off and needs that real close bend here, I just bend it by hand. This you work real careful, and you can bend this the way you want it. But that's going to go in there one towards the end. Put the as I said, put the wire up to the battery. I can start closing that up. And 2 things I have to fix there is those 2 bolts that are stripped. I'd like to show how I'm going to do that with the helicoil and about it. Maybe a lot haven't used a helicoil. You can see how I use it and that. But this way, this ought to all be sealed, ready to go, and then the rest is just minor stuff putting back together. But right now I'm ready to work on these 2 holes here, which are stripped, and that's what I got to put the helicoil in to repair it. So first thing I want to do is get the camera fixed here a little bit. And these holes, I don't think they go clear back into this casing. I think they just go so far and stop. And I have a T-pin here that I'm going to push back in there and see. Yeah, it goes back in and stops right there. This one's the same, because if it went clear in, you might put too long of a bolt in and it would hit something in there. So first thing I'm going to do is take that T-pin and just try to clean out the back, make sure there's nothing in it, get that hole as clean as I can, make sure there's no dirt, any Loctite that had been put on this. There, scrape it up real good, take the vacuum. And I got my stator covered. I have my little O-ring here, but I'm going to take it off because I'm going to be working. I don't want to nick this because I didn't order a new one. Long story. But anyway, I'm ready with the helicoil set. Now I want to see first how far. I have these calipers and they have a depth gauge on the end that comes out. I want to see how deep that hole is, because I do not want to drill any further than that. So I'm going to lock it down, and it's about between 3/4 and 7/8 inch deep. It's actually about 800 thousandths. So I know I don't want to go any deeper than that. In fact, I could go a little bit less, because if I take one of my helicoils and look at it, you can see it's only that deep. And I'm going to be running it in so that one of this top thread goes down in a little bit. You don't want any more. You want it countersunk in a little bit, at least 1 thread when this is in there to fix it. So I know if I got that much, I can make this Man, I can make it clear up to about here, about right there. That's not as deep, the hole isn't, it's deeper than that. So that'll be perfect about right there. That'll leave me one thread. I can even go just a little bit less, and that looks like it would be good, maybe even a little bit less than that. Right there. No more than that. And that comes out to about, I'll make it 450 thousandths. Set it on 450, lock it down. Now that's how much I want to drill in, so I can mark my drill bit. And I know I'll have enough depth for the helicoil and for it to go down in a little bit. That'll work perfect. So this is pretty much the depth I want to go. And I took the drill they gave me with the set for the helicoil, and these drill stops I've had for years, and what I did was I set the depth from the top of this right to the bottom of this angle. The drill bit's pointy. I want to go to the bottom of the angle, so I know I have enough for the helicoil. I won't be going too far back in to go through that casing. So that's set up, ready to go. I have my safety glasses on, I'm ready to drill, and as you see the drill turn, looks like it's wobbling. It's this stop because the way it is. It's just a hair off of what I exactly need, but it'll show me where to stop. So I'm gonna, before I start drilling, I have some cutting oil spray, and it's like a foam. I always show that. I love that stuff. It stays right on there. And I'm going to put some of that in there to help it. Just give it a little bit of lube. Wow, that was quick. Okay, that's all I need. There it is. Now I'll clean that out, and then I can thread it. That's drilled out, cleaned. I took my T-pin and run it in there to make sure there's nothing in there. Now this has to be really done straight. It's just getting right up to it and running this tap. Now this is a tap that came with my helicoil set. I want to get it as straight as I can. And aluminum's easy. It digs in just like that drill. It drilled it out so fast. And get it started. And then I only go a little bit and keep backing off to get the cuttings loose. Oh, it's going in nice. Beautiful. And as I said, when you repair something like this, it actually makes it stronger than the original hole, because the original hole was just aluminum, but now you're going to have steel threads in there. But still, it's going into aluminum, so when you tighten them, you snug them up, and that's it. You don't have to really tighten these. And everything underneath I moved. I had a lot of stuff underneath there. Now I'm going to take this back out. I'm part ways in. You can see all the stuff coming off the threads, the aluminum that it's cutting new threads. I want to get a paper towel, wipe that off. think I can go in a little further. Put a little more of that cutting oil. This is from Harbor Freight. Man, this stuff I like. It's that foam and it stays right where you put it. I like that so much better than like putting just liquid cutting oil in something, squirting some on, it runs down everywhere. This stays right there. Now this, I can go clear into there. I can just check it a little more. Yeah, it's going. There, I think it's as far as I need it. Oop, dropped it. That's all right. There it is. Now I want to keep it dry, and I'll run the heliocoil in, then my bolt should go in with no play. The heliocoil put the new threads in. So I take one of my heliocoils, and you can just think of it as threads, and at this end it has a piece going across. Now this tool has a groove, so I put it up through there and put that right on there, and that's so that I can turn it and it'll drive it in. Now this set, some of them don't have it, but this one does. It has a little collar here that you can loosen, and you can put down right to your heliocoil to help push it in. That's pretty nice. Some of them don't have that. So there is my heliocoil ready to be put in. Once it's in there, then I put a little rod in there and just tap it with a hammer, or you can get pliers and break that off. So there's that. Now we'll see how that goes in there. Sometimes these are a little tough to get started. Oh, that goes nice. The other heliocoil set I bought for the mower, it don't have that collar, but with all the aluminum I have and I can make these collars. I can make a collar for it, because that really went nice. Now I just screwed in, and I can see I have a little bit sticking out. I should have probably maybe went a little deeper with it. If I can't get it deeper, then what I do is it's going. If I couldn't get it deep enough, yes sir, that's it, it's below level. You got to have it down in. Make sure it's down in. It looks great, fantastic. So now, try my bolt. That's my 5/16 bolt. There it is, brand new threads. Now, when I put this together, that casing is on there, the inner primary case, I'll put just a little bit of blue Loctite on there, just a half a drop. Then these bolts have holes through them, this one and this one, and you have to safety wire them. And when I get that far, I'll show it, because there's a certain way you safety wire it. That's so that these definitely don't come out, because your big chain's in here. If this bolt would happen to come out, it would get in that chain. It could really damage some stuff. So that's a way to safety it, and I know about doing these because our aircraft had a lot of bolts like that with a hole through in the head, and you put safety wire through it, and it has to be a special safety wire. You can get safety wire and safety wire pliers at Harbor Freight, but I got mine through a place that sold aircraft stuff, because like the propellers, they had to be safety wired for safety. So let me get the other one done. That one's in there, beautiful. It went right down below where it should be, and I am set with it. I put the second helo coil in. It went right in. It's below the top, about 1 thread, perfect. One last step is they give you this pin with it, because like I showed the helicoil, it has that little spring across so you can drive it in. So now you got to break that off. So you just put your pin back in there and get a little hammer. There it is. The bottom one. There it is. And then I'll just take the vacuum and suck that out and use the little T-pin to try to get that piece out. And that's it. And it's like brand new. That helicoil, if you've never used one, this set was a 5/16, so the drill they give you is a little bigger than 5/16, so that you can put that threaded helicoil in and you have room for it. But what you can do is, if you've never used one, you could get a bolt at the hardware, and you could drill it and tap it, put a bolt in it, like just a scrap piece of aluminum strapping or something, or a little square. Put it in there, put that block in a vise and pull it tight enough to strip it. Get yourself a helicoil set for that size, and then use their drill, put the helicoil in, break the little stem across, try your bolt in there, and you'll see, because it's better than trying it on something if you've never used one, where like you're working here and you have to make it right. So that come out perfect. That's going to be better than new. I'll just, you know, not have to tighten it quite so tight. But I'm ready to put on that back inner primary case. I'm now ready to put my cover back on. I put the rotor and pushed it on, but I'm ready to put the inner primary case on. I've cleaned all the bolts. On the bolts, I've put a little wee bit of Loctite. These nuts for these studs, I don't have to put Loctite on because these are self-locking nuts. And here, this has to be, like I said, airtight. Well, back in here, it sets on the back. The case sets right against here and back here around these. So I want to put some kind of sealant, but I don't want to put the sealant right on here yet. What I'm going to do is, this is a case that's going to go on. Here's where the bolts come out through. That's where I'm going to put my sealant. And then these 4 bolts up here. In here is an O-ring, but to make sure that's sealed up, I'm going to put a little of this. And I got some gasket maker, and it goes up to, I think, 700 degrees, high temperature, rigid torque, and high vibration application. So I got this, and anytime you get it, you really have to read the instructions to do it right. Always read them. I know it's easy to put it on, slap it together, but this says you put a little bead on. Let me think, it's 1/16 to a 1/4 inch bead of silicone on one surface. So I'll be putting it on here and around here, around the bolts. Around here, and then the other ones. You put it on while that's wet, and you just snug it down with the bolts and nuts and let it set for an hour. Then you torque it, go back and torque it. That way it makes a good gasket in there. By just tightening it down a little bit and leaving it set, you're letting that set up, and you're actually making your gasket. You don't want to pull it real tight to begin with. It squashes it all out. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm going to try this stuff and put it on, put that cover back on. Then I can, those 2 nuts or bolts, I'll show the safety wire, putting them on. The inner cover, inner primary cover is on. 4 nuts, 2 bolts here, and 2 on the outside. I just snugged them down, crisscross pattern. That way it isn't squashing all that gasket maker out. Now I'll watch the time. In an hour I can come back and torque them. They said leave it set an hour. So that's where I'm at. The other night I finished up working on the bike. I have all this put together, ready to go. Got the exhaust pipe and a few things and stuff like that to put together, and thought, man, I'm close to being done. Finished for the day. Walked around the bike, and I don't know what made me do it. I just pushed on the back wheel to let it turn. It was froze solid. And I'm like, I know I put all this back together right. I know everything's perfect. What I did was, the last thing I did was I had replaced this brake line. Well, I bled the brake, and then I was using a Harbor Freight tool that sucks the fluid through. It's a one-man bleeder, and it pulls the fluid through instead of pumping the brake and holding it and then opening it, and it squirts every place. I like that thing. So I was using that. I went around right when I went to leave, and I had pushed the brake to make sure the pedal's up and everything, and it was nice and tight. I thought, the brake's not releasing. Tore this all off, all the back wheel, everything, got in here to my brakes, and it was the brake cylinder here. You can buy these new, but I never buy them unless these rubber boots are broke. You might be able to buy them separate for the bike, but for a car you can't, and I do this the same on the car. I take this off, take this all apart, take this, and when I pulled these rubber things off and went to get the plungers out, the ones froze solid. The other, I could get pliers in there and slide it out. It looked almost like calcium built up from water. This is sealed up, but the bike had been set in like 3 years, so it just wasn't good for it. So I have a hone from Harbor Freight, and it says it's an 1 1/8 brake cylinder hone, and I run that through there and cleaned it out. What I did was I put a little oil with my finger on in there, and then I put a little bit of, just a drop of oil on each stone. There's 3 of them, and they're like fingers. They come open. You squeeze them down, slide them into this brake cylinder, and just go back and forth, back and forth. It doesn't remove any metal. It just cleans it out. I run it one way, use a drill, then reverse, and you don't run it real fast, high speed. You want a variable speed drill, and you just go slow with it, back and forth, and then turn it and go the other way. Beautiful. Cleaned it out nice. Put it back together, so it should be all right. And on this, it says it goes from 3/4 to 2.5 inch capacity, U.S. General, and the item number is 97163. Now this will fit down into a car one, you know, from a car. And so many times, well, if you get a mechanic to do it, they're just going to take that cylinder and put a brand new one on. I tear them apart, and I know how to get them back together. Some of them are tough. You have to have an air line to blow air in there to get the cup back in over the rubber. And I've always redone mine. As long as on the car, you can't buy the boot around there, that rubber boot, because it's all sold as a unit, so you have to buy it for that. But if it's boot's all right, I clean it, then I take Armor All and spray some on a paper towel, and I wet that real good, that rubber. It conditions it. Hone it out, hone it out, sand the plunger real with like 2000 grit sandpaper, get it perfectly clean and shiny, put it back in. It should just drop through real nice. So I have that ready to go back on. I just got to clean a few parts, and I had a lot of parts, and I wire brush them. I was always taking a wire brush on a drill and doing it, but it goes so fast. It's variable speed, but it's hard to hold this and do it. I have one on a motor that's a certain RPM, and I seen a guy on YouTube that restores hand tools, and when he'd go over to the wire brush, he had it in his drill press. So that's what I did. I put the wire brush in the drill press, and I have it set at running at 1100 RPM, and that's nice to where it isn't so fast, because if you run it up really fast, you'll notice them wires come out of the wire brush. I've had them stick in me and hit you. You really got to put a face shield on for it. I mean, them things come flying out of there. Then if I do it outside, then they're flying out there. You don't know if you're going to get your bike, go over them with your bike tire, get a flat. I put it in drill press, and it's slow enough that it don't fling them out. And I used it, working great. Always learn stuff off of YouTube. So I thought I was done with the bike and just finish this. No. It said, you know what, you're going to do something else, but it's worth it. Now that this back one was like that, you know what I got to do next? Take the master cylinder off, clean it, go over it. I'm going to do it because I'm going to do it now rather than be out and the thing ain't working right. You do it once, you're done with it for a long time, and especially if you keep using the bike. Setting is harder on the bike than anything. Always something. Have a good day.